What if I told you that the secret to making a man obsessed with you isn't about being prettier, sexier, or more available, but about how you make him feel when you're not even in the room? Because once a man starts craving your energy more than your body, that's when you've got him. Not just for a moment, but for good. Let me show you exactly how to do that. There's something magnetic about someone who doesn't always give you what you expect. When it comes to creating real craving in a man's mind, it's not about being available 24/7 or responding immediately every time he texts. That's not how addiction works. The truth is, people crave what gives them emotional highs and then pulls away just enough to let the imagination take over. When you're always there, always available, and constantly validating him, he never has a chance to miss you. Craving doesn't grow in certainty. It grows in absence. It grows in the space where he's left wondering, why am I thinking about her right now? That space only appears when you stop filling every second with your presence. In the early stages of connection, the best thing you can do is give someone a powerful emotional experience with you. That could be a deep conversation, uncontrollable laughter, a subtle but powerful compliment that no one else has ever said to him, something that makes him stop and think, she sees me differently. But here's the trick, don't stay too long in that moment. You have to learn to walk away while the emotion is still peaking. Most people overstay emotional highs trying to keep the magic alive, but when you pull away while the moment is still fresh, the brain doesn't get closure. It wants more. It replays the experience like a favorite song that ended too soon. That replay is the beginning of craving. Think of it like a great movie trailer. It doesn't give you the whole story. It shows you just enough to make you need to see the rest. When you know how to create those mini moments of connection, and then you step back, not in a rude or manipulative way, but in a confident, self-assured way, you make space for him to lean in. That lean in is what you want. Because once he's the one wondering when he'll hear from you next, you flip the script. He's now emotionally investing. And when someone starts investing their thoughts, their attention, their curiosity, they begin to feel attachment, not because you forced it, but because you allowed space for it to grow naturally. Most people think consistency is what builds attraction, and yes, in long-term love, consistency matters. But craving is not built in consistency, it's built in contrast. Emotional contrast is what the brain responds to. It's what every great song, movie, or memory is made of. The rise and the fall, the silence after the laughter, the quiet after the chaos. You must allow the silence to exist. When he texts, you don't always need to reply instantly. When he asks to meet, you don't always need to say yes right away. When he compliments you, you don't have to give him a paragraph in return. That little bit of pause gives him time to wonder what you're thinking. And the wondering is everything. The craving happens when he's sitting alone, replaying your voice, your energy, that look you gave him before you walked away. It happens when you give a beautiful moment, then leave before he expects you to. It's not about playing games or being distant to punish him. It's about valuing your presence so highly that you don't give it all away just because he's interested. You know that your energy is powerful, so you let him feel it in doses. And every time he gets that dose, it lights something up in him, but then it's gone. And the next day he's chasing that feeling again. That's how you create emotional contrast. That's how you become a moment he can't stop thinking about. That's how you make him crave you like a drug. Mystery is one of the most intoxicating forces in attraction. When a man feels like he has you all figured out, when every move you make is predictable and every emotion you feel is on display, he stops feeling the need to chase. The excitement dies the moment certainty enters the room. Craving is born when the mind is engaged in solving a puzzle it can't quite complete. When a man is left trying to figure you out, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your next move will be, he's locked in, not because you're trying to confuse him, but because you're not giving him everything at once. And that mystery, that's where his obsession begins to build. You become intriguing when you resist the urge to explain every thought, every insecurity, every little detail about yourself. The modern tendency is to overshare, to prove worth through openness. But what actually sparks desire is restraint. It's not about hiding who you are, it's about revealing yourself in layers. Let him earn the next layer. Let him work a little to know what makes you tick. When he thinks he has a sense of who you are, flip the script with something he didn't expect. Show a side of you that breaks the pattern. One day you're playful and soft, the next day you're focused and a little distant. Not out of strategy, but because you are multidimensional, and he's only beginning to see it. A woman who can't be fully read becomes unforgettable. If he knows that every text he sends you will get a rapid, enthusiastic reply, then there's no excitement in receiving it. If he knows that every compliment he gives will be met with gushing appreciation, then he stops valuing the moment. But when he's not sure how you'll react, when he's wondering if you even noticed his compliment, when he's sitting there questioning whether he impressed you or not, that's when his mind stays on you. That uncertainty is magnetic. It pulls his thoughts toward you at random hours. It keeps him replaying conversations, checking your socials, looking for signals you're not broadcasting directly. You also create mystery through silence. You don't always have to fill the air with noise. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say less. When you leave space in a conversation, he fills it with his own curiosity. When you don't immediately jump into your life story, he starts to feel like there's more to discover. When he compliments your beauty and you simply smile with quiet confidence instead of blushing or returning the compliment, he begins to wonder what's going on in your mind. That wondering is gold. It's the space where craving is born, not just for your body, but for your mind, your attention, your validation. This doesn't mean playing cold or distant, it means being in control of your energy. You know that not everyone deserves full access to your heart or your thoughts, so you give them out slowly, like a rare gift. You drop little emotional breadcrumbs, just enough to spark curiosity, but never enough to make him feel like he's already won. He has to follow the trail. He has to invest. And as he invests his time and energy trying to understand you, he doesn't realize he's growing more attached. B thinks he's trying to get to know you better, but what's really happening is that his brain is starting to associate you with pursuit, with emotional effort, with reward just out of reach. That's what creates emotional addiction. Not exposure, but enigma. Not full access, but the feeling that there's more to uncover. That's how you make him crave you, not because he knows you, but because he wants to. There's something deeply addictive about someone who knows their value. When you walk through life with quiet confidence and unapologetic standards, you stop being someone he simply likes. You become someone he respects. And respect is the root of craving. A man doesn't chase what's easy. He chases what challenges him. What pushes him to rise? What makes him feel lucky to be chosen? You don't have to be loud about it, you just have to know what you will and won't tolerate. Because the moment you start accepting half effort, inconsistency, or emotional crumbs, you teach him that you're not a prize, just a convenience. And no one craves a convenience. They crave what feels rare, what they're afraid to lose, what doesn't need them to survive. Your standards don't need to be delivered with attitude. In fact, the most powerful boundaries are the ones communicated with calm certainty. You don't have to explain why you're not okay with late-night texts from someone who barely knows you. You don't need to lecture someone on why effort matters. You simply show it in your actions. You take longer to reply to texts that aren't thoughtful. You don't always pick up the phone when he calls last minute. You don't cancel your plans because he suddenly has time, not because you're trying to play hard to get, but because you actually have a life that you value. That life is your foundation, and it teaches him that being with you isn't a default, it's a privilege. When a man sees that you won't bend your values just to keep his attention, he either steps up or steps out. And if he steps out, good. He was never going to respect you in the first place. The ones who stay, the ones who lean in and try harder, they're the ones who begin to see you differently. You become someone who makes him question his own standards. You inspire him to be more consistent, more intentional, more focused. That shift doesn't happen because you nagged or pushed him to change. It happens because your presence makes him want to be better. That's the essence of emotional addiction. Not just being liked, but being needed as a source of growth and elevation. People chase what feels like an achievement. They crave what makes them feel proud. And a woman with standards is exactly that. She's the one he talks about differently to his friends. She's the one he doesn't want to mess up with, because deep down, he knows she has options. He knows that if he disappears, she won't chase. If he messes up, she won't beg. That awareness keeps him on his toes. It keeps him thinking about you long after the moment has passed. It makes him question how he can do more, give more, be more. Because being with you doesn't just feel good, it feels earned. And that earned feeling, that's what turns interest into obsession. You never have to pretend to be someone you're not. You don't have to play games or act cold to prove your worth. Your power is in your quiet refusal to settle. It's in your ability to smile and walk away from anyone who doesn't see your value. It's in the way you don't explain your boundaries, you just live them. That energy is rare, and because it's rare, it becomes unforgettable. A man might meet women who are more available, more eager, more accommodating, but none of them will haunt him like the one who made him work for her. Not because she needed validation, but because she already had it from herself. And that kind of woman doesn't just attract attention, she makes a man crave her, respect her, and remember her long after she's gone. Affection feels best when it's earned, not handed out like free samples. The most addictive feelings in life are the ones we don't get all the time. When you give love, validation, and emotional warmth sparingly, but meaningfully, it lands with more impact. It becomes something he looks forward to, something he values, something he remembers. Overgiving may feel like love in the moment, but it often turns into background noise. It creates a rhythm he can take for granted. And when something becomes expected, it stops being exciting. But when you give in ways that feel intentional, he begins to crave the next moment. He starts noticing the little things. He remembers your smile because he doesn't see it every day. He remembers your praise because he knows you don't hand it out to just anyone. The brain registers those moments as special, and the heart begins to chase them. People fall into the trap of trying to prove their value by giving too much too soon. They pour affection, compliments, attention, and time into someone, hoping that all this generosity will spark connection. But real emotional craving doesn't work like that. It's not created by the volume of what you give, but by the timing of it. When you show up with warmth right when he needs it, or when he's not expecting it, it feels like a rush, a hit of something rare. And the more rare it is, the more his emotional brain starts associating you with pleasure, comfort, excitement. That's how you become someone he wants more of. Not because you're always there, but because when you show up, you change the emotional weather in the room. This is where emotional discipline becomes everything. You have to resist the urge to always reassure, to always be available, to always say yes. You may feel the desire to text back quickly, to say I miss you first, to compliment him every time he looks good. But when you hold back just a little, when you let him come to you, when you respond instead of constantly initiating, you shift the dynamic. He starts to notice when your energy is present and when it's missing. He starts looking for the signs that you're opening up. And when he finally gets that compliment, that long eye contact, that soft laugh, it means something. He knows. It wasn't just automatic, it was felt. And anything that feels real is worth chasing. This is also about being selective with who gets your energy. A man becomes obsessed with the idea of being the exception. If you treat everyone with the same kind of attention and praise, there's nothing special about his connection with you. But if he sees that you're thoughtful, that you don't open your heart easily, that your compliments are precise and rare, he starts to wonder, what did I do to deserve that? That question is powerful. It keeps him on a mental loop, replaying the moment, trying to get it back. He wants to earn another one. That's what builds emotional dependency. He's no longer chasing you as a person. He's chasing a feeling that only you give him. Think of emotional giving like spice, not sauce. A little goes a long way. Too much ruins the flavor. So when you compliment him, make it about something deeper than his looks. Make it about his strength, his purpose, his way of thinking. When you touch him, let it be with intention, not routine. When you laugh, make sure it's real, not performative. These moments, when they're rare and real, become burned into his memory. He doesn't know why he keeps thinking about you, but he does. It's because the emotion you gave him wasn't overused. It was pure, brief, powerful, and gone before he could hold on to it. That's what makes it addictive. That's what makes you addictive. Most people remember how you made them feel long after they forget what you said. When you become someone who elevates a man emotionally, mentally, even spiritually, you don't just become a person in his life, you become a moment, a turning point, a high, and highs are addictive. You create that effect not by being overbearing or trying to fix him, but by being a mirror that reflects back the strongest, most inspired version of himself. When a man feels better about who he is just by being around you, he doesn't want to let that go. Not because he's dependent on you, but because your presence makes him feel more powerful, more capable, more alive. That feeling is rare. It becomes something he seeks out. Not out of habit, but out of emotional hunger. Craving isn't always about passion or chemistry. It often comes from connection that makes someone feel seen, not just admired for surface level traits, but really understood. When you look at a man and genuinely notice the things he's proud of, the struggles he hides, the weight he carries silently, and you acknowledge those things without judgment, you stand out. Most people are too caught up in themselves to see someone else clearly. But when you do, when you pause and give someone the gift of feeling recognized, you light something up inside them. That light is something they don't want to lose. It's not about stroking ego. It's about touching the soul. You become the one who sees the greatness in him before he fully sees it in himself. But it's not just about understanding, it's also about how you respond to who he is. When you show excitement for his ideas, when you encourage his growth, when you remind him of his purpose during moments of doubt, you don't just become attractive, you become unforgettable. Most people are so focused on being loved that they forget the power of making someone believe in themselves. That belief, That's what makes a man crave you. He connects your presence with his progress. He ties your energy to his growth. And people always want to be near the ones who make them feel like they're evolving. Because evolution feels good. It feels like momentum. And momentum is something we all chase. There's also power in your standards here. When you hold him to a higher level, not by demanding, but by expecting, he begins to step into it. He wants to meet the energy you bring. He wants to be worthy of your time and attention. If he senses that you don't settle, that you don't need him, but you chose him, that choice becomes sacred. It doesn't feel like obligation, it feels like honor, and that honor is something he doesn't want to lose. He starts working for your respect, not because you forced it, but because he wants to earn it from someone he truly admires. At the core of it all, the most powerful craving comes from feeling emotionally elevated. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you show up with presence, purpose, and poise. When your words carry weight, when your energy adds light, when your silence speaks just as powerfully as your voice, you become someone who lingers in his mind. You become the voice in his head that reminds him who he is, the calm in his chaos, the spark in his low moments. And when someone connects your presence with their better self, they never truly walk away. Because it's not just you they're missing, it's the version of themselves they were when they were with you. That version felt stronger, that version felt limitless, that version felt alive, and they craved the woman who brought him out, again and again. So if you really want to make him crave you like a drug, stop trying to impress him and start embodying the woman who leaves a mark. Craving isn't about constantly being available, giving too much, or proving your worth. It's about creating emotional experiences that stay with him when you're not around. It's the emotional contrast you build, the mystery you maintain, the standards you uphold, the intentional love you give, and the way you make him feel more alive just by being in your presence. You become addictive, not because you chase him, but because you elevate him. Because you give him something real, something rare, something that doesn't come from neediness, but from quiet, undeniable power. That's the kind of woman he doesn't forget. That's the kind of woman he craves.